The Israel-Palestine conflict, a war that has lasted for generations, a land disputed for centuries. But how did we get here? What is happening right now, and most importantly, who is right and who is wrong? Let's break it down fact by fact without any bias. But to understand this war, we need to go way back. Thousands of years, this land once called Canaan covered parts of modern day Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, and Jordan. It was home to many groups, including the Hebrews, who are considered as the ancestors of Jews, the Philistines, and the Canaanites. Around 1000 BC, King David, an important figure in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, established Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. King David was a warrior and leader who united the Israelite tribes and made Jerusalem their center. His son, King Solomon, built the first Jewish temple, a sacred place for worship. In 586 BC, the Babylonians destroyed the first temple and exiled many Jews. Later, the Persians allowed Jews to return and rebuild it. This became the second temple, but in 70 CE, the Romans destroyed it after a Jewish revolt. The famous Western Wall in Jerusalem today is a part of this second temple. Over the centuries, this land changed hands many times, ruled by the Assyrians, Babylonians, Persians, Greeks under the Alexander the Great, and later the Romans, who renamed it Judea. After multiple Jewish revolts, the Romans expelled many Jews, leading to the Jewish diaspora, where Jewish communities spread across different countries. So, where is Jerusalem and why is it so important? Jerusalem is a city in today's Israel and Palestine, and it is sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. For Jews, it was the capital of ancient Israel and home to the first and second temples. For Christians, it is where Jesus was crucified and resurrected. For Muslims, it is home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third holiest site in Islam. During the 7th century, Muslim rulers took control and Jerusalem became an Islamic holy site. Later, in the 11th century, Christian crusaders from Europe launched wars called the Crusades to retake Jerusalem from Muslim rule. This wars lasted from 1096 to 1291. The Christians wanted to reclaim their sacred lands while Muslims fought to keep control. Eventually, the Muslims won, and the region renamed under Islamic rule, later controlled by the Ottoman Empire. But in the 19th century, most Jews still lived in different countries, facing persecutions in Europe. Some Jews wanted to return to their ancient homeland. This movement, called Zionism, pushed for a Jewish nation in historic Israel. At that time, the land of Palestine was under the Ottoman Empire, and both Jews and Arabs lived there. But in 1917, after World War I, Britain took control of Palestine. Tensions grew as more Jews immigrated, hoping to build a Jewish state. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a plan: split the Palestine into two states, one Jews, one for Arabs. Jews agreed, but Arab leaders rejected it. When Israel declared independence in 1948, Arab countries attacked, starting the first Israel-Arab War. Israel won and expanded its territory, and over 7 lakh Palestinians fled or were expelled, calling it the Nakba, or the catastrophe. Many Palestinians became refugees, and conflict only grew from there. In 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel captured more land, including the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. This left many Palestinians under Israeli military rule. In response, the Palestinian uprising intifadas began, demanding freedom. In 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza, but in 2006, Hamas, a militant Islamist group, won election and later seized full control of Gaza. Hamas does not recognize Israel and has launched rocket attacks, while Israel has responded with airstrikes and blockades. Israel argues it must defend itself from terrorism and has a historical right to the land. Palestinians argue they are resisting occupation and deserve their own independent state. Both sides see themselves as victims, making peace extremely difficult. In the past week, the Israel-Palestine conflict has seen a significant escalation, shattering a fragile ceasefire and resulting in substantial casualties. Let's delve into the events of the last few days, examining key developments, statements from global leaders, and the current humanitarian situation. On March 17, 2025, Israel launched a series of airstrikes across the Gaza Strip, effectively ending a ceasefire that had been in place since January. Israeli officials stated that these strikes targeted Hamas positions in response to stalled hostages negotiations. The resumption of hostilities has had a devastating impact on civilians in Gaza. Over 500 Palestinians have been killed since the ceasefire was broken, with a significant number of victims being women and children. The United Nations reports that renewed violence is hindering efforts to secure the release of remaining hostages, with 24 individuals still believed to be held captive. The international community has reacted strongly to the renewed violence, but US President Trump expressed unwavering support for Israel's action, stating that Hamas is responsible for the current conflict.
Get the ceasefire back in play. What's his plan?
Well, the president made it very clear to Hamas that if they did not release all of the hostages, there would be all hell to pay.
The United Nations has expressed concern that escalation makes the safe return of hostages more challenging. In retaliation to Israeli airstrikes, Hamas launched missiles targeting Israel. While these attacks did not result in casualties, they mark a significant escalation in the conflict. As of March 21, 2025, the situation remains volatile. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has ordered the military to seize more ground in Gaza and has threatened partial annexation if Hamas does not release hostages. Israeli ground forces have initiated operations in both southern and northern Gaza, leading to intense clashes with Hamas fighters. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is dire. Medical facilities are overwhelmed with casualties, and there is a significant shortage of medical supplies. Thousands of families have been displaced due to ongoing airstrikes and ground operations. International aid organizations are calling for immediate ceasefires to provide necessary assistance to affected civilians. The Israel-Palestine conflict is deeply complex, with both sides having legitimate historical claims, grievances, and security concerns. If you see the Israel's view, they cite historical and religious ties to the land, the necessity of a Jewish homeland after centuries of persecution, and the need for security against groups like Hamas. They also argue that their military actions are in self-defense. And now if you see the Palestinians' view, then Palestinians highlight displacement, Nakba, Israeli occupation, illegal settlements, and a blockade on Gaza as violations of their rights. They argue for self-determination and see Israeli policies as oppressive. India officially supports Palestine and has historically backed the Palestinian cause since its independence. However, in recent decades, India has strengthened ties with Israel, especially in defense, technology, and trade. India recognized Israel as a country in 1950 but established full diplomatic relations only in 1992. India follows a balanced approach. It supports Palestinian statehood while maintaining strong strategic ties with Israel. In the United Nations, India has often voted in favor of Palestine but also cooperates closely with Israel. And now there is a different angle in there, the Kashmir angle. India says Kashmir is its land and Pakistan took part of it illegally, which is called as POK, Pakistan occupied Kashmir. Pakistan says India is occupying Kashmir unfairly. Now, if India fully supports Israel, which is taking Palestinian land, then Pakistan can argue. What Pakistan can say is that if Israel can take land, why can't we take Kashmir? And this would weaken India's stand on Kashmir internationally. So that is why India carefully balances its support between Israel and Palestine. India supports peace. India does not want violence. India officially supports Palestine but maintains good relations with Israel for strategic reasons. But now if you see the legal concerns, legally, international law considers Israeli settlements and occupation illegal. But Israel disputes this. And morally and historically if you see, then both sides have suffered immensely and both have committed acts that could be seen as violations of human rights. But what is the reality? There is just one reality in all this scenario. No side is entirely right or no side is entirely wrong. The core issue is leadership, extremism, and the lack of compromise. Ultimately, the civilians, both Israelis and Palestinians, are the biggest victims of this. Peace requires mutual recognition and a fair resolution. Subscribe for more real stories, deep insights, and the truth behind the headlines. This is Nikhil Sharma signing off. Stay aware, stay strong.